And once again, that's a wrap. The final episode of Uzi Storybook Talks is now here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Uzi Storybook Talks. On today's episode, we will be wrapping together everything we've learned from episode 1 to now 8 on your self journey into finding yourself and who you are and all the things you need to be able to kind of get to be able to get to that point. So we've talked about a lot of things, and the reason why we talked about it is because the self-identity that a lot of us try to find, it's harder to get than we expect it to be. Like, one thing I realized is that finding who you are and knowing who you are, it takes a lot of reflection. It takes a lot of realization. It takes a lot of healing. It takes a lot of redefining. It takes a lot of becoming and planning and observing. It takes your entire life to pretty much find who you are. And through your experiences, through people you meet, the places you go, what you like to do, you start to develop a sense of self. You start to develop that feeling of finally knowing who you are as a person. The reason why I talked about every single episode to this point is to get to this conclusion. Who are we? How do we find who you are? And that is today's episode theme for the last episode of Uzi Storybook Talks. And honestly, it kind of makes me kind of emotional just because I know that it took a while for me to really bring season 2 and the amount of planning it took, and to just see it all come together and for me to finish it so beautifully. It's exciting to see, and I'm just very happy. I'm very proud of myself that I was able to bring this for you guys and really reflect on the things I know. And just, anyways, I'm just really happy that I was able to talk to so many wonderful people who had so many insights to really bring to my podcast, and I'm very grateful for that. And I can't wait for you guys to see what season 3 brings, because I will be planning it, and it's going to be even better and bigger. And I just really, really hope it doesn't take me that long to really release it. I'm going to try to see if I could release it even quicker than I did for season 2, just because I really needed to revamp kind of like what I wanted to talk about. And for me to do that, I needed to take some more time and really plan myself. But now that I kind of have a structure of what I want my podcast to kind of go off of, it shouldn't take me as much time, hopefully, to be able to bring that to you guys. In episode 1, we talked about healing your hidden trauma. And in that episode, we dived into our childhood, because before you can know who you are, you have to know why you became who you are. And it's one of those things where it's like your true self is hidden under all the weeds. Like, you have to pull all those things so that you can really, really see the root of who you are as a person. And that's the thing. Sometimes you end up becoming a part of those things that you didn't plant in the first place. You know, weeds that were sown into your life end up kind of creating who you are as a person today. And honestly, it's okay. You know, everybody is going to go through those experiences, those painful moments, those moments of almost, I would say it helps create a sense of realization. Once you overcome it, which you will, nothing is not overcomable. I promise you that. And if it's death that makes you overcome it, it's still overcoming it. Not saying you should actually. Wait, that was a really bad way to like phrase that. I'm just saying, like, if someone's sick with an illness and like you overcome it through passing away, guys, don't do anything that you, just don't do that because, forget I said that. That's not what I meant at all. But yes, if you guys really need help, please seek help. You're not alone. Do not resort to death as an escape. I'm sorry for my choice of words, but yes, basically what I was saying, like, death is also overcoming, because from a Christian standpoint, death is not the end. There's still more to come, and if a relative of yours passes away through an unpreventable circumstance, like an illness or a car accident, God forbid, just know that's not the last time you're going to see them, and them overcoming that illness by passing away gave them eternal life somewhere better. So honestly, it's one of those things where it's like you can pretty much overcome anything. I truly believe it. And when you heal that hidden trauma or those experiences that causing you so much pain, whether through leaving your circumstance and escaping from those things, but also realizing that you need to be able to maybe stand up for yourself more, respect yourself more, or not let anyone step beyond your boundaries so it doesn't happen again. But for you to make sure it doesn't happen again, you need to heal those past things, because those past wounds are what causes defense mechanisms that can cause you to be closed off or to hide yourself or to not be true to who you are. And that's why healing your hidden trauma is so important, because it's one of those things where it's like, before you can really choose who you are as a person. Well, you can't really choose who you are as a person. It's one of those things. I mean, your choices help you create who you are as a person. Before you can get to that point, you need to be able to make sure that the choices you make also reflect who you want to become. And we talked about that also on one of my previous episodes. We talked about redefining our definition of love, redefining your understanding of what social media or what movies and books tell you love is, and really taking back something that's yours, something that you are supposed to feel, not anybody else. So if someone tells you love is supposed to be this, 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 he's supposed to do this, he's supposed to do that, he's supposed to do this. Don't get me wrong. I'm a true believer in, if a man's going to do it, he's going to do it. If he wanted to, he would. But I also believe that that should not also be your definition of love. It should not be your only definition of how things, how love is shaped. Because a man could do something because he knows that that could also get you to that point as well. So manipulation is a thing. So just be very careful. That's not the definition of love, but it's a symptom. Is that what it's called? Anyways, love taught me that what I accept, but also what I thought was worth, was going to be how I live my life. So if I'm accepting people disrespecting me, crossing my boundaries, over and over again, that also reflects on what I feel like I'm worth. And that's how it's going to be how I live my life. I'm going to let people keep doing that, and it's going to start reflecting on my actions, and it's going to affect me. But when I love myself, I respect my choices. I respect my boundaries. That's what I meant to use, my boundaries. But honestly, sometimes who we are is also shaped by the kind of love we think we deserve. And we also explored that in episode 2. So it's one of those things where trauma can also affect how you think you deserve love. Someone who's grown up in a more privileged household with parents who love and care for them might reflect on love in a different way versus someone who grew up in an abusive household and has a different standpoint of, oh, I'm not deserving of this type of love, which can reflect on the relationships. And that's how people get into very abusive relationships. And the only way to escape that is for you to be able to heal that past and be able to redefine your definition of love. And that's why I kind of made that my second episode as well, to kind of like reflect on healing your childhood trauma. In episode 3, we talked about forgiving ourselves and how, in order for us to be able to get to who we are today, we needed to forgive our past versions of ourselves. And we needed to not just only live, not just only survive, but we need to live. And because if you don't forgive yourself, you're going to be, what's the word? You're going to end up almost hating yourself or hating parts of yourself, and it's going to project in different things, and it's also going to affect your relationships, and it's going to affect other people. And the only way you can find peace in who you are is by accept and forgive that this is who I am as a person, and I forgive myself for all the things that I did that reflected things that I don't want in my life or a part of me. Because you can't punish yourself for who you used to be. Like, for me, I grew up in a very disrespectful relationship with friends, and I allowed people to disrespect me because of my desire to make friends. And I talked about this a lot, and I talked about this on episode 3 and really dove into that. But I allowed myself to get into those situations where I knew that this is not what I want, but I felt like I needed to do that because I felt like that's what I needed to do to make friends. And for the longest times, I disliked myself for that, for always tolerating that. But eventually, I forgave myself that that girl isn't, shouldn't be, shouldn't shouldn't be hated just because of her desire to love. And I had to forgive myself in order to find peace in who I am today. Because at the end of the day, I could sit back and be like, oh, I used to be this, I used to be that, and I can't believe I did this, I can't believe that. Or I could accept that, you know what, I did this, I did that. But I'm grateful for those experiences because they made me who I am today. They made me experience the things I experienced so that I could realize the things I realized, and also be in this situation today where I'm talking to you guys that this is what I went through and this is how I overcome that and I became myself today. And now for anybody else going through similar situations, you can also realize that you can escape it. It's not forever, and you are the person who creates your timeline. You don't have to think that just because you've been tolerating disrespect your entire life, you have to keep tolerating it. You can choose when to stop. But as long as you keep allowing it, it's going to keep continuing. And that's where forgiving yourself comes into play, because you need to be able to forgive yourself for all those things that you think you should be hated for or you hate yourself for, because it'll really end up hurting you. And it's one of those things where that also leads into episode 4 theme on self-respect and self-love. And all of these interplay, healing and forgiving yourself, all of those interplay, because it's one of those things where it's like, for you to be able to respect yourself, to respect who you are as a person today and love yourself, you need to be able to forgive and redefine your definition of what is love, because I'm out here giving this to people, but I'm not giving it to myself. So what is love? What is my definition of love? What do I think I deserve? What do I think I'm worth? What should I think I deserve? What should I think I'm worth? And what do I want to deserve? What do I desire? And what do I want to be worth? And all of those interplay. And that leads to how you respect yourself, how you love yourself. And I specifically picked couples for that episode, like I said, because I wanted to show that a lot of times you need to be able to have that self-perception of self-love to be able to love someone else. Actually, all the time. You can't love anyone else truly and fully and authentically if you don't love yourself fully, truly, and authentically. And I'm not saying be selfish. I'm not saying constantly neglect your partner's feelings because of how much you love yourself. But that self-respect that you have for yourself will also reflect on the person you love, and that will also help your relationship, and it'll create something truly healing. Because when you desire peace and desire respect and understanding. You'll communicate and all of those things. They're reflecting your relationship. And I truly believe that in order to find yourself, like you need to be able to like in order to find yourself, you need to be able to also love yourself, because you can't find what you don't love. That doesn't really make sense in a way, but like I don't know how to explain it. But I've talked about it before, so you guys kind of understand what I'm saying in a way. I don't know if I'm wording it right now, but self-love isn't just always soft. Sometimes it's walking away, sometimes it's saying no. It's those boundaries that you build, because tolerating disrespect is not self-love. It's hurting you, it's breaking you. And finding who you are also means finding that version of yourself that doesn't compromise for anyone, but is truly and solely who you want to become and who you are as a person. And those reflect on your standards, what you tolerate, what you deserve. And it's all those things where it's like, have you been hiding yourself to make other people comfortable? Because I've done that before, and that wasn't me loving myself. That wasn't me respecting myself. That was me pushing away myself in priority of someone else. And you should never do that. You should always prioritize yourself in everything you do. And we also talked about in episode 5, we talked about who do you want to become. We talked about that version of you that you dreamed of that's so far away, almost like a fantasy, but that's actually already here. She's actually just buried, just like deep down under all the doubts, all the fears, all the insecurities, all the things that you think that you're not capable of. They're burying that version of you that you want to become. And we talked about that. We dove into that, because at the end of the day, we don't become who we want to be. We remember who we've always been. And that's how you truly find yourself, because you yourself, you've always been there, but it's hidden under all the trauma. It's hidden under all the pain. It's hidden under all the everything you've been through, and the parts of yourself that hasn't been healed, or the parts of yourself that you're pushing down because you want to uplift someone else. But that's also disrespecting yourself, and it all intertwines in a way. Like, that's why we also talked about work-life balance and people balance, work life and people and all that balance in episode 6, where we dived into all those titles that we felt like we had to have growing up, like whether it was honor student or employed or a friend. We talked about all those titles we're given, and all those titles that the world tells us we have to have, and all those experiences that we've had balancing ourselves through high school and the developing areas of our lives, middle school, university, and getting from high school to university, that stage between child and adult where you're trying to figure out, oh, wait, I'm not a kid anymore. I shouldn't be doing this, but like this is who I am. This what I want. Is this trying to figure yourself out, and all those things that really intertwine, and that finding that balance, because you can't know who you are unless you know what you were when it comes to work and school and life and people. That balance helps you find yourself at the same time, because at the end of the day, what you find yourself in. You don't find yourself in what you do for others. You find yourself in how you come back to yourself after doing all of that. Because it's one of those things where it's like, you can do all these things for other people. You can get as good of his grades because it makes your parents happy. You can get the highest paying job because it makes your girlfriend or your boyfriend, happy. You can get the nicest car because that's what makes your girlfriend happy or something. You get what I mean? Like, you can get all those things, but in yourself, in what you truly want, and when you come back to yourself, who are you? Who are you beyond that? Who are you beyond your work? Who are you beyond your daughter? Your daughter. Who are you beyond being a daughter? I'm talking for myself, or being a son, or being a student, or being an employee, or being. Who are you when all those titles are stripped away? all those things that society placed on us based off of what we were doing or who we were with, and not actually by knowing you as a person. Who you are as a person is all based off all of that, but then all of that stripped away, because it all reflects on each other. All the pressures, all the expectations, all the desires, all the wantings, they all reflect on who you are as a person. And then in episode 7, which is last episode, we talked about being aware of who you are. And we kind of did a fun twist to it by like doing that game of we did that game, that Nigerian game of odd one out, and we saw how it was kind of difficult for people to figure out which one of the people are Nigerian. And the reason why we played and who's not Nigerian, and the reason why we played that game was because we wanted to reflect back on how culture and how culture and identity interplay, and how we think that sometimes, this and this and this and this, the food we eat, the language we speak is who you are as a person. But no, that's just a reflection of maybe where you're born. That maybe is a reflection of what you like, but it's not a true representation of what you are. And a lot of people like to interplay their nationality into who you are. And yes, that also represents a big part of who you are, because that's where you're from. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are maybe Nigerian by origin, just like in that episode, but born somewhere else. So where does that interplay? Does that mean they're not actually Nigerian because they're not born there and they weren't raised there? Like, how does that really truly define who you are? And that's what we talked about. We talked that, like, at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like your culture, your identity, and who you are as a person can all interplay. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it doesn't truly define who you are as a person. And then we also talked about just how that really affects a lot of people who have identity crisis, maybe people of mixed backgrounds who are from different tribes or different countries, and maybe their parents are have an interracial I think that's the word, relationship, that created who they are. They're a mixed child. And then a lot of people don't know if they're this or that. Like, who am I? I guess I'm both, yes, but like that sense of like maybe not fully belonging in this and not fully belonging in that, because you don't feel whole because you're two halves. But two halves also kind of still make a whole. It makes you. And it's one of those things where it's like, it all interplays in together. You know what I mean? Like, your culture, yes, can make you as a person, but at the end of the day, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know where you're from, if you don't know your background, if you don't feel maybe like you fit the definition of a certain background, of what that background requires, what's it called again? That doesn't mean that you don't know who you are or you're not that. It just means that that's a part of you. And that doesn't fully create who you are, but it's still a section of yourself. And it doesn't have to be your whole definition. Like, for example, I'm Black, but I'm also Nigerian. And a lot of people think that just because I wasn't raised in Nigeria, they like to take away that part from me sometimes. Like, oh, you don't act Nigerian, like you're not Nigerian enough because you don't speak proper Pidgin, or you don't speak proper Yoruba or something. And it's one of those things where it's like, I started to almost feel that I wasn't good enough to, I almost forced myself to be that, like, learn all the slangs and accents and dialects and all the, what's it called again, all the parts of the language that I may not really know, just to get that part of myself back. But that part of myself has always been in my life. I've always been Nigerian. Since I was born in Nigeria, since my two parents decided to give birth to me, and them being both Nigerian doesn't make me any less Nigerian because I'm born here, not born here, raised here. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's sometimes even harder for people who are even born here and hasn't been to Nigeria in so long, because at the end of the day, where you are ends up kind of creating that a sense of self, you know. Your environment interplays a lot into who you are, but your part of yourself shouldn't be taken away or stripped away just because somebody doesn't think that you fit all the stereotypes that, or all the characteristics or all the traits that you should have by being in this person or being this race or whatever. Sometimes people are like, oh, Liz, like, you're not even black, let me take your black card away, just because, I may not know certain songs, or I may not know certain things that a black person should know, which is one of those things where it's like, how does my skin color mean that I have to learn certain things about being black in order to be black? My skin color is already enough for me to be considered a black person. Therefore, I am black. But at the end of the day, being black is not just who I am. It's a big part of who I am because it affects my experiences. It affects my surroundings. It affects everything around me. But it doesn't mean that that's just who I am. I'm more than just a person that's black. I'm also ambitious. I'm also creative. I'm all these things. You get what I mean? And being just a black person, what's it called again? Being a black person doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm not this or not that. At the same time, it doesn't mean that I have to be this or I have to be that. Because at the end of the day, being black is a part of me. It's what I am, but it's not just who I am. And it's one of those things where it's like that reflection of who you are as a person, it finding yourself and really truly becoming who you are as a person. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of experiences. It takes a lot of realization, and it takes a lot of acknowledgement and awareness, and you need to go through certain things. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, you as a person and what society tells you should be as a person doesn't have to coexist, because at the end of the day, you are the person who gets to define who you are as a person. And you don't have to listen to anyone. You don't have to have your life be controlled by society or your parents or your friends or expectations just because of your desires, just because of what you want. Because sometimes we want to be accepted, we want to be loved, and it can affect how we see ourselves, and it affects who we are. But you don't have to let it affect you. Because at the end of the day, you can want to have friends, but that doesn't mean you have to disrespect yourself to have friends. You can want to be married and be a wife. You can want to have children and start a family, but that doesn't mean you have to tolerate an abusive relationship because you think that's the only person who can get you to that point of having a family and being a wife. So many things. It's one of those things where it's like, we as humans, we tend to compromise ourselves for our desires. But are you really compromising? Are you really getting those desires? Is that really fulfilling you, truly and surely? Because at the end of the day, yes, you want to be loved. Yes, you want to be a wife, say. But does that mean you also want to be in an abusive relationship? Does that mean you want someone hurting you, whether it's physically or mentally, because of that? Or say you really want to have a best friend, and you've never really truly felt like you've had a friend. Does that mean you have to always prioritize that person's every desire and need, and almost do anything and everything just to make that person happy, just because that's the only person at that moment that is maybe entering your space enough to see to really like want to be close to you? Does that mean you have to push down all your self-respect and all your self-love all the priority you should have for yourself because of that. No, it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, you can desire something, but it doesn't mean you should tolerate something. You can desire to be a successful person, but it doesn't mean you have to sell your soul. So it's one of those things where it's like you truly are your experiences. And let me just play on an audio really quickly, because as you guys know, I tend to do this thing where from where I reflect on other people's words. Give me a second. Not words, reflection on the episode. And as you guys know, I wait. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. As you guys know, it's something that I've been doing since episode 1, where I have members of the audience, I guess, so you guys, reflect on the topic of that day. And this one's a little bit different because, it's kind of reflecting a little bit on everything, because it truly all wraps together in this final episode. Let me just pull that up. I may cut and then just come back if it takes me too long. So if you guys see a jump cut, that's because of that. Because I know I don't really cut my episodes like that. But I need to find this. I don't know why it's taking me so long. Okay. I have found it. And now we will be listening to an anonymous, we'll be listening to an anonymous, I can't say the word, anonymous person of the audience answering the question, which is, what part of your identity are you finally choosing to accept? Because one thing is clear, is that in order for you to be truly, 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 truly your sense of self, you need to accept yourself as who you are today. And then everything else comes after. The realizations, the healing. Accept that you're not perfect. Accept that you can make mistakes. Accept that you may be tolerating things that you shouldn't be tolerating. Accept that you may be loud or too quiet or shy or too obnoxious or insecure or all the bad traits, all the good traits. Accept that. And then you can choose to change the bad things, heal from them, grow, and become a better person. The bad things will keep happening. It always happens. We're humans. We make mistakes. But that awareness comes from accepting it and really acknowledging that, okay, this is who I am as a person. That's okay. But let's listen to someone else's reflection on that, of what part of your identity they're choosing to accept.
What part of your identity are you finally choosing to accept? That's a good one. I'm choosing the identity that allows me to express my authenticity, right? At all times, right? I'm choosing the identity that allows me to express, not suppress my inner thoughts during the times that matter, right? I'm choosing the identity that allows me to view myself through the prism of the future, not the prism of the past, right? Because sometimes we rise or fall to the expectation of those people around us, and I'm choosing to rise, not fall. I'm choosing the identity that allows me to express that unbridled joy for my fellow colleague who just wanted something in life, right? I'm choosing the identity that allows me to also express that unbridled truth when it matters. The identity allows me to speak on what I believe in, right? That's the identity that I'm finally choosing, I'm finally accepting. Thank you.
Wow. Um that was amazing. To hear from you guys, it's always just so refreshing to just listen to how a lot of us speak and how we choose our choices of words and all the realizations that kind of grasp all of that together. And it's one of those things where it's like when they were saying that they were choosing to wait, give me a second. When they were saying that they were choosing to accept all these parts that bring out the best in them, but also the worst in them, that also happened. It's one of those things where it's like you can really tell that you accept the fact that you may have been hurt, but that doesn't mean you're broken. And choosing to still prioritize your joys and everything, it's beautiful, honestly. And here's just here's another reflection. I know I don't usually do more than one, but guys, it is the last episode. It's gonna be a while since you hear another one, so let's just listen to one more, and let's just truly immerse ourselves this in this realization of in finding the realization of who were we, who do you want to become, and who are you now? And I hope everything I've said from episode 1 to now can kind of help you answer that last question. But let's listen to this last reflection. Okay, guys.
What part of your identity are you finally choosing to accept? Wow. As for me, I'm choosing the identity that stands for what I believe in. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we tend to muffle down our inner thoughts, right? We suppress our authenticity to fit in to the prism of what the world thinks or what other people think, right? The prism that people see us through could be based off the prism of the past, not the prism of the future. And as of recently, past couple years, I've been trying to walk in my element, right? The element of self-confidence, right? The element of hope, the element of authenticity, the element of being able to speak on what I believe in, right? Unbridled joy for my fellow, you know, colleagues, right? Who just won in life, right? That unbridled truth about what I think of this without worrying about the repercussions, right? But yeah, that's the part of the identity that I'm choosing to accept.
I like that. I like that a lot. And again, I can't really comment too much on these reflections. I choose not to just because it's not my place to really analyze what someone has to say about their reflection of what they're choosing to accept about themselves. And that's the best part about it, is that it's what you choose to It's about you. It's not about me. It's not about what I have to say after. None of that matters, because at the end of the day, what matters is that you're choosing to accept yourself. And I remember they said something about that element of confidence and authenticity that they're choosing to walk in. And I thought that was very beautiful, just because of like finding confidence and your most authentic self is the hardest thing a human can do, because that confidence, it's it's difficult. It's difficult to grasp, because there's so much in life that tells you to be afraid, or what you have to fear, what you have to lose. So that confidence, it really finding that, and really finding your most authentic part, it's one of those things where it's like they truly, 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 truly impact your life. And when you find those things, when you find that confidence that you've been looking for, when you start to understand how to walk in that authenticity, I know I'm not saying that right, but you'll realize how much of yourself you'll start to find, and how much of yourself you'll start to love, because your love for yourself grows with each and every day. And I started this podcast to document my life, in a way, my journey of like what I've realized these past coming of years. But I also wanted to use it to talk to you guys and help you guys maybe realize some things, and have conversations with also very intellectual people that can also bring insights that I may have not realized. And I love to talk, but I also love to learn. And I also love to be aware of things that I may not have been aware of the past, and all the things that I need to understand to truly overcome all the battles that I'm currently facing or may face in the future. Because these things, these reflections of who we are as a person, and finding that, is what we're going to have to look back into when we are going through hardships that question that. When someone's telling you you're this, you're that, you can defend yourself, because you know who you are, and their opinion of you doesn't matter. You can acknowledge the things that people are doing that hurt you, or crossing your boundaries, because you have those boundaries, because you know who you are, and what you like and what you don't like, and what you don't want to tolerate. And it's those things that really shape yourself as a person, and really create that sense of identity. And I really hope that some of the words that I said on my previous episodes, or even today, was able to impact at least one of you guys in some way. I know I do talk a lot, and maybe not everything I say makes sense, but I truly, truly love opening a space where I could really create that sense of constant awareness that this is what's going on. This is what you need to find. This is what you need to do. And really create a reflective environment where I can find myself every single time I speak. And anyways, I think with that, we end the episode and the season. Not for the last time, but just for now. I will see you guys again. I'm getting emotional. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna cry. But this podcast and really being in this space really, really is a sense of joy for me. And it's become a part of me to really use this space for not just the healing of myself, but hopefully the healing of others, and the growth of others, and the growth of myself. And I am truly grateful for every single person who has stayed tuned for this long, who is staying tuned right now and watching me speak. at this very second. I'm grateful for you. I appreciate you. And I will see you on season 3 of Uzi Storybook Talks. Goodbye for now.